I've been to a fair few country towns through this role presenting Regional Drive in recent times, and it doesn't matter which country town I go to. I'm often approached by a local who'll say something along the lines of, you really should do a story about how rampant ice use is in our town. Now, some of these towns aren't particularly big, and I'll often say something like, I'm surprised that the scourge of ice can be, reaching these far remote regional towns, and I guess that just shows my ignorance, really, on the matter. We do know that ice usage has been increasing rapidly across Queensland, and it has obviously taken an impact on a lot of people and affected a lot of families. It has drained a lot of resources, and services are being overrun, but it's also led to the formation of groups that want to change this scourge of this substance on our community. And one of those is the Australian Anti-Ice Campaign. It's a charity group that aims to provide education, really with youth, about the dangers of methamphetamine and help people and families that are struggling with addiction. This group has made its way up to Townsville this week, and it's hosting a series of workshops with school students, teachers and parents. It's led by CEO Andrea Simmons, who herself struggled with ice addiction. Thankfully, she made it out the other side and is able to share her story in the hope it will deter others from taking the same path. Andrea's with us this afternoon across regional Queensland. Thanks for your time.
Oh, good to be on the show. Thanks for your time, Adam.
How did you become addicted to ice? How did your story with ice start?
Well, Adam, I was 40 years old. I had never really dabbled in the drug scene. I might have smoked some cigarettes. Obviously, when I was younger, I had a bit of a puff of some pot. It didn't kill me, and when I was 40, somebody that I loved and trusted and had known for 13 years pulled out an ice pipe and said to me, give it a shot, just have a puff, it's not going to hurt you, trust me, don't you? And I decided to see what it was like that day, just to taste it and see what happened, I mean, how bad could it be? It's only a smoke. It's not like a needle or a pill. That was my thought process at the time. I had no idea what I was about to embark on. And that first puff took me on a spiral to hell for the next 2 years that I actually died. I stopped breathing at the end of that journey. And I'm blessed to be alive today to be able to do what we do.
There was something about that first puff that actually made you want to try a second puff. What was it about the substance or the feeling it gave you that made it so all-encompassing?
I think it was not just the feeling. It was, the feeling of wanting to be loved and fit in and accepted and, try things like everyone else did. And, the initial hit, your brain floods with dopamine and you are in a euphoric state, and everything else that's going on in your life just disappears, and there's only that moment, and all your sensations are intensified, and you get the highest high you're ever going to get, but nobody warned me about the lowest low that was going to come with that, and the journey there forward, which some impacts I still suffer of today.
You had a 2-year battle with addiction. What was rock bottom?
I think rock bottom was being in psychosis and afraid to go out and, outside and hearing voices and wanting to kill myself and being lost around the corner from my house and, having no home to go to, then stealing to eat,
These are the experiences of many that will battle a drug addiction. They lose control, really, and can get into some pretty scary circumstances. Not all those, sadly, that do go down this path end up making it out. How were you able to dig yourself out of this hole?
Adam, I was really blessed to have another chance at life again. I like I said, I was in psychosis. I was just losing it, and I stopped breathing on G. They gave me some G and I just drank it. I wasn't able to process, my frontal lobe in my brain wasn't working, and I couldn't process logic, rational decisions. And after a near-death experience, I still used ice because I needed it like I needed air, but my body crashed and it just went to sleep for 3 days. And when I woke up, I had a spiritual and a supernatural encounter experience that happened to me. I believe I had an encounter with God at that time, and I was led home by a series of coincidences, if you want to call it that.
Were you spiritual prior to this? Were you prone to kind of wanting to see God, or did this take you completely by surprise?
Absolute surprise. I was about, you work hard, you acquire what you can, you just help yourself, mate, in this world. That's how it is. And I had no concept of God. And I'm not religious by any means, but I do have a connection and a spiritual connection with God until today. And this is why we do what we do, because, you see, God's heart's to love those that are in trouble. And I know the way out. We've done it. We've been able to get out. And so we connect people to services and we love them back to life.
We're hearing here from Andrea Simmons sharing a very personal account of her own ice addiction journey, which led to her actually being, clinically dead for a short period of time. Thankfully, was resuscitated and was able to get herself out of a rampant ice addiction. She went on to create a group called the Australian Anti-Ice Campaign. She's in North Queensland this week, hosting a series of workshops with school students, teachers and parents. How real do you get with the kids about your journey and some of the negative consequences of going down this road?
We expose ice for what it is. The truth is, how real do you get with somebody when you tell them don't cross the road? Because we've got to show them the consequences. We get real. We tell them what it was like. We tell them what we thought it was going to be like, and we tell them what we found. And really the truth is, at the end of that road of ice addiction, there's only three things that happen. You either end up with mental health issues and physical issues, you end up in prison, or you end up dead. Now, the consequences of ice, they need to have all the evidence, and we put that in front of them, and they can make better choices for themselves.
When you are addressing school students like you have been this week in North Queensland, what are some of the experiences that they share back with you?
Oh, wow, it's been incredible. The kids are really talking. They're talking to their peers, to their teachers, to their counsellors, but they're coming up to us and telling us about what they're going through and what they've seen. And some families going through, kids coming to school with families on the gear, and they're being able to. The school, nobody knew about it. Nobody knows what's going on underneath, behind closed doors, and they're bringing it up, and we're able to connect them to help and to resources and to their counsellors for support and and information where they can get help from.
You do also work with teachers. What do you think the role teachers have to play in combating teenager substance abuse?
These teachers really love these kids, and we're able to provide them with some training. There's a 2-hour training called SAMI Brief, which is a substance abuse and mental health intervention. By the way, it's not only for teachers. Anybody in the community can do this training, and they can be equipped with the tools to be able to help their loved ones and people around them when they need that help and they're entrapped in addiction, not just ice addiction, but any addiction.
I mentioned earlier that I've been to a lot of outback country towns where people will, willingly talk about the problems that their towns are facing with ice and substance abuse. Were you hearing stories from Townsville that made you want to choose this city to actually do this training?
We actually had call from your community here, from Townsville, and we've got call from around Australia, but the community have put their hand up to say, we want to do something and we want to be activated. We want the training. We want to, have educators here in our community. And so we've come up to start the process and to set up a team up here. And we're looking at help from the community to set up offices up here. We need to put together a drop-in centre where people can come and get help, and where our workshops can be based from to go out to the community.
We hear a lot about the scourge of ice. Do you feel like we're making any ground in tackling this substance and the problems it's having with our society?
Well, I can tell you that over the last 2 years there's been a 37% increase in meth use across Queensland, particularly this area. Every life that we can get in front of, it matters. And every person that we can warn about the dangers of this drug, other names for this drug, the ingredients in it, Drano and acetone and glass, every person we can save and deter from that, from ever picking up, is a life, saved. So, yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, Andrea Simmons. Sounds like you got a bit more work to do.